Did you know this seemingly innocent tattoo of a cathedral actually holds a sinister hidden meaning? And if you see someone with a clock with no hands, you'd better run the other way as fast as you can. But before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Cooper, but you can call me Coop. I won't lie, narrating for this channel has been on my bucket list for a while, and the team finally gave me a shot. Let me know how it lands via the description link and drop a comment if you'd like to hear more from me. Anyways, back to the video. From coded hate symbols to tattooed animals, there's all kinds of ink that can get you into serious trouble. But to understand all that, we have to start with the oldest example of tattoo art known to science. Ötzi, a 5,300-year-old mummy thought to have been alive around 3300 BC. The corpse had 61 tattoos of vertical and horizontal stripes, as you can see here. Scientists believe these were made by rubbing fire ash into thin incisions and letting the skin heal over them. Now that is hardcore. As we advanced, tribal designs and ancient piercing techniques evolved the world over to engrave the skin with ink by hand, some of which are still used today. But fast forward several thousand years to 1890, and the perforating pen was invented by none other than Thomas Edison. This inspired New Yorker Samuel O'Reilly to make the first ever tattoo gun. From then up until the 1930s, Western society saw tattoos as a novelty, with tattooed men and ladies appearing on stage in circuses and shows. Around this time, the Russian criminal castes began to use tattoos to define rank and reputation among fellow inmates, which eventually transferred over to American prisons as well. But then, Western sailors adopted tattooing as a method of storytelling. Different styles of tattoo indicated different ports and places visited, and helped sailors tell stories of their exploits. For example, swallows indicated they'd traveled 5,000 nautical miles, and a shellback turtle meant they'd crossed the equator. Nonetheless, mainstream society at the time still associated tattoos with the undesirable underside of the nation, with the trend popular among people like carnies, hobos, and criminals. After the Second World War, tattoos became a more common trend, but still not a mainstream one. People living on the fringes of society adopted tattoos as a symbol of rebellion and empowerment. Hippies, bikers, anarchists, and other counterculture types began to bring out the art and the ink. Then the 1990s hit, and everyone and their mom was getting tattoos. By 1995, America had over 10,000 tattoo artists, and in 2023, that figure was over 25,000. Tattooing is now an industry valued at over $2 billion. But just because tattoos are now mainstream doesn't mean that the history and symbolism behind a lot of their designs has been completely lost. Around the world, some designs can still get you into serious trouble if you don't know what they mean. Tattooed tears under the eyes have a variety of meanings, but what you need to know is that all of them stem from the US prison system. It can signify that the wearer has spent time in prison, acknowledge the loss of a loved one, or even indicate that the person has killed someone. Hip-hop trailblazer Lil Wayne has famously sported 2 tears under his right eye, one on his left and one by his mouth. Supposedly, these represent 4 people close to him who have been killed. Supposedly. Rapper Kevin Gates, who has been in and out of jail since he was 13, also donned similar tears, with a total of 3 under his eyes, which he says represents him being forever in sorrow. But another, slightly darker meaning may put you off getting this tattoo. Some claim it proves the wearer has been the victim of abuse while serving in the prison. Dominant inmates have been known to brand submissive inmates in this way to declare ownership. It's placed on the face as it's an area which cannot be easily concealed. The exact meaning and its origins are unknown for this reason, with released inmates sometimes lying to their family and friends about why they have it. So for all you wannabe rappers, remember this tattoo goes further than being skin deep. Cobwebs used to be specifically linked to sailors on long voyages. On the elbow, it metaphorically meant they had been leaning on the side of a boat for so long that a cobweb had formed, as you can see here on tattoo icon Lyle Tuttle. But the meaning has been transformed to also represent long stints in prison. It's commonly seen on the elbow, neck, or knee, but its placement doesn't make any difference to the meaning of the tattoo itself. If you have a 3-leaf shamrock, I suggest adding a 4th leaf on ASAP. This tattoo is closely associated to the family-affiliated Irish Mafia. They're an American-Irish Peckerwood gang with ties to the Aryan Brotherhood, Add a 666 into the center, and that doesn't mean you're a lucky devil. You're just a walking hate crime. Woke culture alone shouldn't be the only reason you decide against the Dreamcatcher tattoo. According to the Canada Border Services Agency, who have detailed most tattoos in this video and their meaning for training purposes, a Dreamcatcher tattoo can represent an Indian warrior, a Native American who has served prison time, often worn on the neck or skull with the number of feathers at the bottom indicating how many crimes they've committed against white society. So maybe think twice about getting that Dreamcatcher as a full back tattoo, Karen. Back in the Soviet Union, Stalin confined both ordinary criminals and those who dared disagree with him to the Gulag labor camps, swelling prison numbers. Tattoos became a way of distinguishing the true crooks from the political prisoners. From the 1930s to the 1980s, prisoners covered their bodies in art as a form of rebellion, to denote their rank, reveal their crimes, and convey a multitude of other complex meanings. A string of barbed wire meant an inmate had been given a life sentence without parole. With nothing left to lose, many of them inked this definitive symbol on their forehead. A cat, meanwhile, represented a prisoner's life as a thief, and different variations could tell different stories. For example, the head of a tomcat on the chest signified a dangerous criminal who hated the law. A single cat anywhere could mean the criminal worked alone, but multiple cats indicated they were part of a gang. Similarly, a tattoo of a scarab beetle was considered good luck for thieves, pickpockets in particular. So if you clock anyone with either of these tattoos, keep a steady hand on your wallet and lock your doors. If you're a Christian wanting to express your faith through a tattoo, then go for it, my dude. But be careful where on your body you get it. Having a cross on your back is fine, but to have one on your chest is a big no-no. In the Gulag, it signified that the wearer is a thief-in-law, a top dog in the criminal underworld. In Stalin's time, these elites ruled the prison system, adhering to a strict code of honor, conducting their own trials and meting out punishments right under the guards' noses. Not someone you want to be confused for. And if you thought churches were nice, no. A tattoo of a cathedral or church with domes was common for long-timers, with each dome representing a different conviction. A dagger through the neck meant a criminal had taken the life of another in jail and could be hired for more unaliving. And to make sure they weren't no rookie, the client would look to the number of blood drops on the dagger, which signified the amount of lives they'd taken. Yeesh. Tattoos were such a massive part of Russian prison culture that the convicts would ink the faces of Soviet icons Stalin and Lenin onto their chests. Apparently, this was due to the belief that on seeing their dear leaders drawn on a prisoner, the confused communist firing squad would be like, "Huh?" and unable to open fire. This story of the so-called Grave Pass was published and popularized in Russia by pro-German newspapers in the 1940s, who would fabricate silly stories to make the Red Army look like idiots. In reality, this is pure propaganda. I doubt the gunmen in a firing squad were particularly merciful. Even today, tattoos still have their place in Russian jails, where star tattoos aren't a symbol of hope, but of incarceration. Inmates use the number of points on tattooed stars to represent how many years they've been behind bars. So the bigger the star, the more seasoned the inmate. Depending on where these are, they can reveal a lot more about the wearer. Found on the knees, these tattoos mean the individual will never submit to the police. On the shoulder or clavicle, these indicate the inmate is a high-ranking criminal. Whether you're a fan of Alice in Wonderland, Batman, or just card games themselves, it's no surprise people like getting playing suits inked on themselves. But in Russian prisons, specific suits can have different, often not-so-nice meanings. A spade symbolizes a thief, while a club shows you're just a no-good crook in general. Meanwhile, diamonds are reserved for informants. So if someone has one of these, it was likely applied without their consent. Hearts, on the other hand, imply someone is looking for love. So they're not all bad. For the real edgelords amongst us who feel shackled by society, maybe think twice before getting any manacle tattoos. Each tattooed manacle can indicate you've served 5 or more years behind bars. So this individual is showing the world they've been incarcerated for at least 10 years with a manacle on the ankle and on the wrist. That imprisonment length could mean they've committed a severe crime, or many crimes all adding up. Either way, it's not a tattoo to consider unless you've served serious time. Never try to pull rank on someone who has epaulets tattooed on their shoulders. It isn't a military fashion fad. Amongst gangs and prisons, these markings denote a high-ranking criminal, akin to the rank of a senior official in the army. Epaulets can also feature smaller markings such as skulls, which tell you if the wearer has murdered someone or not. I'd march away from that situation if I was you. We've all seen the basic bros and basic Beckys with matching crown tattoos that read King and Queen under them. What they may not know is that the number of points on those crowns could land them in some seriously hot water with one of the biggest criminal networks in America. The 5 points in the crown indicate their affiliation towards the People Nation Gang, which is represented by number 5. The Latin Kings Gang identify its members by the 5-point crowns they sport about their body. The gang's roots date back to 1954 in Chicago, Illinois, where this Latino progress movement established itself at the heart of the criminal underworld through drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and murder. If you do want a crown tattoo, get one without 5 points instead. It might save you from a lot of trouble. There seems to have been a spate of millennials getting simple, small, basic tattoos. Emphasis on the basic. 3 small dots in the shape of a triangle may seem harmless enough, but it has a different and universal meaning to those in gang life. This symbol stands for Mi Vida Loca, or the crazy lifestyle that crime syndicates are born from. When joining a gang, this tattoo will usually be the first an individual gets to show their dedication to this new way of living. Normally, it's marked around the eyes or hands, so that members of this lifestyle can identify each other on sight. So for anyone just trying to be cool like Zoe Kravitz, maybe connect the dots and save yourself from this faux pas. And if you thought adding 2 more dots would be safe, think again. A tattoo of 5 dots, like those on a dice, represents time served in jail. The corner dots represent the walls of a cell, while the center dot represents the trapped prisoner. A tat with the same sentiment is the clock with no hands, worn by someone in jail with no end in sight. This one is only worn by those who've served the hardest of hard times. So, if you see anyone on the outside with it, get the heck out of there. And if you're thinking of getting a clock tattoo, just make sure to include the hands. If you, like many other nerds, have gotten yourself a Joker tattoo in the last few years, do not, I repeat, do not show it off in Brazil. It may look cool as you flex off in the bathroom mirror, but in Brazil, clown masks or clown tattoos symbolize that you have proudly killed a policeman. And this is no laughing matter. Brazilian police officers have boasted about their tactics for dealing with these individuals, like making them scratch their clown tattoos off with sandpaper and knives before being rubbed down with alcohol. That's really putting the ow in clown. Skull tattoos are pretty common in alternative social scenes, but certain skull designs should be steered clear of at all costs. In particular, the Hells Angels Death Head skull. With long, colorful wings, you can see why it might be a tempting choice for some. But unless you're a member of this dangerous outlaw biker gang, be sure to stay away. On more than one occasion, bikers and bars have offered to help out unworthy tattoo bearers by removing them with nothing more than a hot iron. But they don't stop there. The outlaw symbol is protected so heavily by its members that they've threatened legal action against anyone using their branding. This includes Disney, Alexander McQueen, Saks, and Toys R Us. I can imagine those companies got ridden hard, but nowhere near as hard as who's coming up next. In March 2025, the US was hit with headlines of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported from his home in Maryland to a terrorist center in El Salvador on the claim that he was smuggling people into the country. On Truth Social, President Donald Trump claimed that Garcia had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles, representing the MS-13 gang. That's a serious allegation. MS-13 is one of the largest street gangs in the US, with more than 10,000 members. When recruiting new gangsters, they frequently target immigrants or descendants of immigrants from El Salvador, where Garcia is originally from. Slight problem is this is Garcia's hand, and it doesn't say MS-13 on it. Garcia himself denied the claim, and it was later admitted that his detainment was due to an admin error. Even so, Big Donnie doubled down and used the tattoo as justification to keep him locked up.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
on
wait a
that.
minute.
The symbols are open to interpretation. The White House claims that the tattoos, a marijuana leaf, a smiley face, a cross, and a skull, are gang symbols, though plenty of experts poo-poo this. In June, Garcia was brought back to the US to face trial because, sentencing traditionally comes after the trial. At the time of making this video, Garcia's case is still ongoing. Who'd have thought a tattoo could cause such mayhem? One of the most feared gangs in the US is the Mexican Mafia. Despite the name, it's mostly run by Americans of Mexican descent, who are renowned for their secrecy and being the most vicious gang within the California prison system. To symbolize their unyielding loyalty, members tattoo themselves with icons from Aztec mythology, like the hummingbird to represent the warrior god Huitzilopochtli, as well as Marilyn Monroe to match the MM initialism. So if you're a fan of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, maybe think of another way of showing your love. Saying that, since these tattoos have become known, the gang might have discontinued them to maintain their secret skullduggery. These aren't the only Latino gang tattoos in California, though. The Fresno Bulldogs get tattoos of cats. Just joshing, they get bulldogs. And don't even think of trying to impress your amigos with a tattoo of a sombrero. These are symbols of the Nuestra Familia gang. Sadly, in recent years, there's been an increase in groups promoting hateful rhetoric and crazy conspiracy theories. Apart from the obvious symbol I can't show here, white supremacist groups love this 1488 tat. The 14 is shorthand for the 14 words slogan first sprouted by terrorist and butt-faced David Lane. The 88 means HH, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet, and stands for Heil, that guy. White supremacists will include the symbol in graffiti and email addresses, sell merchandise at 1488, and of course get it scrawled onto their skin. You may enjoy splashing out on Fred Perry polo shirts, but however much you like them, don't get the logo tattooed on your skin. In the US, the brand has been co-opted by the not-so-fashionable far-right group Proud Boys. Founded in 2016 by dashing heartthrob Gavin McInnes, members are self-proclaimed chauvinists. Now, Fred Perry have long used the laurel leaf, a symbol of victory and triumph, as their brand logo, and they've even issued a statement clarifying they don't support the group, and stopped selling the yellow and black polo the group wears as a result. But wouldn't you know it, the Proud Boys have gone on to adopt the laurel leaves as their battle flag, with some marking it into their skin, which coincidentally is also worn by Bieber. This is from Pink Floyd's semi-autobiographical horror musical The Wall, and satirizes fascist imagery. It's beloved by Pink Floyd fans, many of whom have opted to have it on their bodies. The only thing is, the point of this satire has been completely lost on some, a la the Hammerskins. They're a white supremacist group from the USA, founded in the late 1980s. Hijacking Pink Floyd's hammer for their logo, supporters have slapped images of the hammers onto their skin and tainted its association. The Hammerskins continue to spread their stupid, hateful messages all over the world, often through far-right concerts and racist music, which is crap news for all you Pink Floyd fans out there. During the American Civil War, the Confederacy and its military forces fought to keep people of African descent enslaved. Throughout the war, the one flag that became most associated with the Confederacy was the Southern Cross. For many folks living in the southern states today, though, the flag has become a symbol of pride, with some choosing to get it inked onto their bodies, dissociating the image from its dark past. Even so, for many the flag continues to be a symbol of slavery, and has even been adopted by white supremacist groups. Jump ahead to 2020, and in the wake of the George Floyd protests, people began to reconsider the symbol, its history, and how it's perceived by others, leading many to have it removed or covered. And for everyone in Australia, you're not safe either. Ever seen anyone with this tattoo? If so, they could be just as bad. See, in 1854, miners in Ballarat, Victoria rebelled against government troops, swearing allegiance to the Eureka flag. The flag incorporates the Southern Cross, a prominent constellation seen above the southern hemisphere and a key part of indigenous cosmology before European settlers saw it as a good omen and included it on the Australian flag. Anyway, the Eureka Rebellion was a key moment in Australian history, and the Eureka flag has become a symbol of democracy and protest. Okay, so why wouldn't you want this tattoo? Well, today, you guessed it, racists have adopted the imagery, associating it with anti-Asian immigration and flying it to promote a white Australia policy. And in the aftermath of the race-related riots in Cronulla in 2005, where white Australians adorned in the Southern Cross attacked people of Middle Eastern descent, the cross was seen by some as a symbol of racial violence and nationalism. So if you don't want people thinking you're a drongo, best give this tat a miss. Runes and other symbols from pre-Christian Europe have unfortunately been adopted by hate groups too. Take the Celtic cross. Its origins are foggy, but it was first used in Christianity in Britain and Ireland in the 8th century, possibly by missionaries. Subsequently, the cross has become a part of Ireland's Celtic heritage. However, before you get it scrawled on your hand like this guy did, know this. During World War II, the symbol was used by Norwegian totalitarians and has since been tattooed onto the skin of many a supremacist nutjob. It was even used as the main symbol of Stormfront's website, the biggest, most racist forum in all the internet. and that's saying something. But before you start running away from people with the cross, remember, it's also associated with nice things, like neo-paganism and Irish pride. So not everyone who has it is necessarily racist. Then there's the Othala rune, once used as part of the runic alphabet system across pre-Roman Europe. Traditionally, the rune symbolizes home, community, identity, and legacy. But with their obsession with creating a mythical Aryan past, German forces in World War II took it as their own, and that unfortunate association continues today. In the UK, Richard Leppington was a councillor for right-wing party UKIP. He found himself in hot water after it was revealed he had an Othala tattoo and was accused of being a white supremacist. He firmly denied it, saying he was just proud of his Saxon ancestors. But the fact remains, it's risky ink nowadays. In Norse mythology, the Algi's rune means elk, symbolizing stags and hunting, and embodying the principles of honor and protection. Yet another symbol seized by Germany in World War II to glorify the Aryan ideal. Even today, some racist creeps tattoo the rune onto themselves. Shame, because like all these runes, it never had anything to do with race, and is still used by neo-pagans. Racists give these good guys a bad name. Dragons are awesome. I don't blame anyone for wanting one forever inked into their flesh. But did you know that the color of the dragon can give it an entirely different meaning? In Welsh mythology, the red dragon, the one we see on the flag, symbolizes Celtic Britain, while the white dragon symbolizes the Anglo-Saxons. Sorry, my grandparents were Welsh. Anyway, one hate group that have stolen the image of this fantastic beast are the Woden's-folk, founded in 1988 by Wolf Ingesunu, whose real name was the significantly less cool Jeffrey. He and his followers believed that the mustachioed World War II dictator was the reincarnation of the Norse god Odin, aka Woden. Okie doke. In 2019, the group were reported taking part in rituals around UK National Trust sites, spreading messages of racial supremacy and carving hateful images into the landscape. As for their symbol, they've adopted the white dragon of Anglo-Saxons, with Woden followers getting it adorned into their skin. Aw man, way to ruin a symbol of awesomeness. See this red hand? It'd make a pretty cool tattoo, huh? Well, before you go ahead, you need to know what it actually means. The Red Hand of Ulster is a heraldic symbol found all over Ireland, and its politics. It's associated with both Unionist, those who want Northern Ireland to remain part of the UK, and Republican groups, who want a united Ireland free from British rule. Here's where it gets complicated. Over the years, the Red Hand has become associated with Union paramilitary groups, like the UVF and UDA, who did a lot of shady stuff during the troubles of the 60s to the late 90s. And yes, I know Republican groups did too before you start crying to the keyboard. Even today, some still see the hand as a symbol of loyalist ideology. So if you're ever in a Republican neighborhood and you've got this tattoo on your arm, just be careful. They say you should never meet your heroes, and you should never get tattoos of them either. I was a huge fan of fantasy author Neil Gaiman, but after hearing the disturbing sexual assault allegations against him, I'm sure as heck glad I didn't get a tattoo of him. I'm guessing this fan is regretting their decision. Some people have even taken to altering their inks to distance themselves from their former beloved icons. This guy got a picture of Ye, and on hearing his rather dodgy views, decided to get it covered up with this. Nice. Many people fell in love with the wizarding world and got tattoos of snitches and Deathly Hallows, only to watch in horror as J.K. Rowling started to speak out against trans rights and fund anti-trans projects that many of the very same fans are in support of. Many trans supporters boycotted her works and merchandise, even going so far as to remove wizarding symbols from their ink. This wearer decided to cover up their Potter tat with a cool-looking night sky, while this guy opted for the Master Sword and a Triforce. Even so, I wouldn't judge anyone for a Potter tat beyond sheer cringiness. Getting monsters like cult leader Charles Manson and serial predator Ted Bundy, on the other hand, don't get me wrong, I love true crime, but this is on another, very odd level. If I saw someone with this bang on my window begging for help, I'd close the curtains. Let's hop over to Japan, where just having a tattoo can get you in trouble. It all began in the Edo period, around 1603 to 1868, when criminals were forcibly brandished with tattoos so their crimes could be identified and the perpetrators punished. Smaller crimes like theft earned arm tattoos, while the worst crimes got you slapped with a humiliating head tattoo. If someone received 3 strokes tattooed on their head, they'd be sentenced to death. Yikes! Into the 21st century, criminal gangs known as Yakuza continued the practice of tattooing. Unlike in the West, where members get their gang logos tattooed to signify their undying loyalty, a Yakuza's tattoos represent a very personal depiction from their life, or something symbolically important to them. Whether or not the Yakuza is worthy of the tattoo is decided by the tattoo master, and the process is completed traditionally with needles, by hand, without electrical equipment. Damn, that's gotta sting. Despite not having gang logos, different symbols still have meanings. For example, a koi swimming upstream signifies a strong will and the power to overcome an obstacle. To avoid being spotted in public, Yakuza restrict their markings to below the wrist, neck, and ankles. So if you're in Japan and meet a sharp-looking guy in a suit and shades with a koi peeking over his sleeve, remember to mind your manners. As a result of all this, ordinary law-abiding citizens used to avoid getting inked up entirely. The practice was actually illegal until 1872. Certain establishments, like bathhouses, still sometimes bar people with tattoos from entering their premises, and it's considered good manners for foreign visitors to cover any sleeve tattoos. Of course, it's not just us humans who've got skin for tattooing. So do, dogs. In August 2025, at Pet Fair Asia in Shanghai, eyewitnesses met a dog adorned in a gold necklace and wristwatch, as well as a massive dragon inked on its back.
A dragon?
The unnamed owner boasted to spectators that his Mexican hairless dog had no anesthetic during tattooing, even grabbing it by the neck to show it felt nothing. As photos of this flew to social media, people were understandably shocked. Even worse, the animal apparently looked terrified and had injuries on its legs. The tattoo artist who carried out the work said in an interview that he was initially hesitant to tattoo the dog, but after the owner's insistence that the Xolo breed has less sensitivity to pain, he went ahead with it. Now, I couldn't find a lick of evidence to prove that Xolos feel less pain, so that owner's talking out of his ass. In the aftermath of this controversy, Pet Fair banned him from the event. Good riddance. Although ideally, that poor dog would have a new owner by now. Did you ever stop to think that your tattoo may not even belong to you? Think about it. Say you want to get a tattoo of Bugs Bunny, which is property of Warner Bros. Entertainment. Does that tattoo belong to you or Warner Bros.? In 2021, this question was brought to light when tattoo artist Kat Von D found herself in hot water after inking a reproduction of a Miles Davis photo onto a guy's arm. The photo was taken by professional photographer Jeffrey Sedlick in 1989, who, on seeing his work used without permission, filed a copyright lawsuit against Kat. Now, usually tattoos come under fair use. The act of putting an image, like Bugs Bunny, onto someone's skin is transformative, a term that saved my YouTuber ass more than once. However, Kat is a tattoo celeb, and Sedlick claimed she'd used a pic of the tattoo to promote her shop and merchandise. Had Kat lost the case, it would have had unprecedented repercussions on tattoo art. Luckily, she won, though that's not the end of it. If you get an original design by the tattoo artist, legally, the tattoo could belong to the artist, not to you. Hopefully, they don't come asking for it back. In 2011, The Hangover Part 2 splurged onto screens. Tattoo artist Victor Whitmill was horrified, but not by how bad the film was. If you've had the displeasure of watching it, you might remember the scene where Stu wakes up with a Mike Tyson-style design tattooed on his face, with his pained expression featuring prominently in marketing. Whitmill, who tattooed Tyson's face back in 2003, sued Warner Bros., even trying to prevent the release of the movie. Sadly, The Hangover Part 2 was released, and the issue was ultimately settled outside of court. Sounds like Whitmill had a nice vacation. We think of tattoos as being forever, but in the end, all flesh succumbs to the conqueror worm. However, a father and son company have decided to change that in one of the most macabre ways imaginable. They turn the tattoos of the deceased into works of art. What? The Ohio-based Undertakers, Save My Ink Forever, work with local funeral homes to remove the tattooed skin of a deceased body, treat it, and return it to the departed's loved ones. where it's framed forever in glass. Well, that's something. To me, this seems morbid as hell, but for the bereaved, the skin supposedly serves as a reminder of the deceased's identity. The father and son, Michael and Kyle Sherwood, founded the company in 2017 and have since preserved thousands of skins across the US and even Canada and the UK. Most of their clients ask for individual tattoos, though Save My Ink Forever will do entire arms, legs, and even whole bodysuits, costing up to $100,000. They have their boundaries though. They don't preserve face tattoos or gingangulis, and they won't turn people into lampshades either, which, believe it or not, they have been asked to do. Man, I'm getting real Ed Gein vibes here. So if you've got any tattoos, make sure you tell your friends and family you don't want them sent off to the Sherwoods. All this tattoo skinning is nothing new. Meet Monsieur Bonheur, the tattooed body of a 19th century Frenchman that was stuffed with horsehair and nailed to a board. Oof. Bonheur is just a nickname. Nobody really knows who the man was. But he had over 50 tattoos depicting everything from national symbols and celestial bodies to scenes of violence and depravity. It's thought he was a convict in his former life who was executed and put on display as a warning to any potential evildoers, and then sold on as an attraction. Now he belongs in a private collection in London. Ugh, I don't want to meet the owner. Between the late 19th century and early 20th century, criminologists believed there was a link between tattoos and unruly behavior, so inked skins became a subject of fascination. There's even been times when tattooed cadavers held in medical facilities or prisons have been skinned without a shred of permission from friends or family. So for all you tattooed guys watching, be glad you didn't live back then. One guy who really went to town on the whole tattoo skinning hobby was Japanese physician Dr. Masaichi Fukushi. While studying moles and pigment, he became fascinated with the art form, but it went up a disturbing notch after he started working at Mitsui Memorial Hospital. Whenever a tattooed patient of his died, he would remove and preserve their skin. He began to befriend tattooed citizens of Tokyo, including the Yakuza, and offered to pay to help people get their full body tattoos finished, as long as they agreed to let him harvest their skin after they died. In his lifetime, he reportedly collected over 2,000 tattoos. Sadly though, or perhaps happily, Fukushi's collection was largely destroyed in an air raid during World War II. Now only 105 samples remain. Can't say that's a bad thing. But on that macabre note, we've reached the end. It's been great narrating this one. I'd love to hear your feedback of my voiceover via the comments or link in the description. What landed, what didn't, and whether you'd like me back for the next one. Anyway, do you have any of these tattoos? Maybe you know of some more tattoos with hidden meanings. Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.